Welcome back to Piano Player Reacts. Today we're going to be talking about Dire Straits' Down to the Waterline live in 1978. I'm not sure what show this is on. This is, I think it's some British television, but this is a great song. This is a really, really great song. So a couple things I want to say before we get into this, review of this music here. So first of all, I think one of the most interesting things about this song is that it's a great example of passing chords, right? The song has a lot of chords, a surprising amount of chords for like a pop song, you know what I mean? And they're not jazz chords or blues chords, right? They're not sevens or like major sevens. They're just like triads, but still there's a lot of them and there's a lot of different ones. And obviously you have your core chords, right? And then you have your extra chords. This song is just a great example of like, it doesn't sound like there's that many chords. You know what I mean? Because there's really only like 3 main chords in the songs, but there's a lot of accompanying chords. So this song is like, it's like a great example of how you can like spice up a song or make a song like way more interesting just by like plopping in some extra chords in the in-between, right? In the in-between the chords. So, you know, for example here, so we'll get to the bridge, but the intro is just a G to a B minor, right? G to a B minor. That's the intro to this song. And so just listen for that, which is again a very, to me, the chords in this song, it's like something you would hear out of a Miles Davis song. To me, it's like very stereotypical, like jazz repertoire, like chord progressions and stuff, right? I think it's really interesting. I mean, just that right there, G to a B minor. It's a very, if you look, when we listen to the intro for the first time, just listen for like, it's like a hypnotic intro, like a boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. It's, yeah, to me it sounds like something you would hear off of like So What by Miles Davis. And then as we're here, the verse is it's a B minor to an F sharp minor to an A to an E7. That's basically, it's a 4-chord verse that goes by very quickly, and this is not an easy song to pull off either. I mean, because the chords fly by so fast. If the drums aren't tight, if the band isn't tight, it's not going to sound very right. Yeah, so classic, you know, two chords in the intro, and the verse plays over and over again. It's about 4 different chords. Yeah, it's basically a B minor that ends on an E7. Now, it might just be an E major. I don't actually know if it's an E7 or not, you know, if it has that you know, D at the end there like a E7 has. But, and I think the most interesting part of this song, as we'll hear, is the bridge. The bridge is very, very interesting. The bridge reminds me of the bridge from Deacon Blues by Steely Dan. And again, the bridge also just reminds me of something that Miles Davis would write. There's a lot of chords in it. The bridge, just the first 2 lines of the bridge is E, C sharp minor, C, and then G, and then to C. That's the first 2 lines basically. E, C sharp minor, C, C, G, G, C, C. And then it goes D, D, A, and then F sharp, G, and A. So that's very interesting. That's not something you regularly see as a verse or a bridge within more, you know, popular sounding music. But all right, let's get into this before we start talking too much here. Let's get into this. Let's play the beginning of the song. Listen for that intro. I'm going to play that part again. Listen to that intro. Very simple, very jazzy blues sounding 2-chord intro. Let's hear that one more time. Yeah, there you go.
Sweet surrender on the keysign. If you remember, you used to run and hide.
So, you see how those chords are just flying by? Dun, 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 right? It lands on that E, right? You know what I mean? It's such an interesting chord progression, and try to play it on the guitar or the keyboard or the bass. It's really not easy. I mean, the chords are simple. They're just simple triads, but it just moves by so fast, and it's also a very, subtle sounding chord progression. It's very interesting. So another thing I want to touch on real quick before we get into this one more is Mark Knopfler's voice, right? His voice is weird. He's got a weird voice. You know what I mean? He's got a weird singing voice. He's got one of the most unique and strange singing voices you're gonna hear, right? It's it's almost kind of weak, especially live, even on the albums. Not weak as in he has a weak voice, but it's kind of faint, and he's talk singing, I don't think he ever does any vibrato. You almost never hear him do any vibrato in his singing. He's just mostly singing, and it's crazy because if you listen to him, you listen to them play recently, right? And even in the past 20 years, his voice still sounds great, which is crazy because usually guys who sing that way, kind of sing more in their throat, like a raspy singing, that stuff usually doesn't last, but his has. He just has a great iconic voice. I think if you got somebody let's say Michael McDonald, right? Or Donald Fagen, or even Robert Plant. If you try to do that type of singing with this, it would be very strange. It would be a lot different. I don't think it would I don't think it would match. So I think it's one of those cases, kind of like Steely Dan, right? I think if you try to get somebody else to sing the music, I don't think it would sound right. But let's listen to some more of this real quick.
Remember, you used to run and hide. The shadow of a car goes to take you one time. We're counting all the numbers out to the waterline.
Another thing I always think about with these live performances, right there, you can see right here, you see that stack of Marshalls, right? You see that Marshall stack? One thing I always think with that is I always wonder how many of them were using hearing protection back then, right? You know what I mean? I mean, that is not good for your ears. I mean, to be standing, right in front of those Marshall amps like that. Because, a lot more people use hearing protection today, obviously, when they play music live. In-ear monitors, headphones, all that stuff. But back then, a lot of guys didn't. Actually, I've read in Greg Allman's autobiography, My Cross to Bear, great book, you should read it. He says that he was the only one in the Allman Brothers who wore earplugs, and he got made fun of for it, but he said it basically saved him from having severe tinnitus and having severe hearing loss, because a lot of these guys do. A lot of these guys have really bad hearing loss. I mean, I've even watched interviews with Dave Grohl, right, talking about how he still doesn't, which blows my mind. He said to this day he doesn't wear earbuds, earplugs, or in-ear monitoring at all. He doesn't use any of that, which is pretty crazy, which means he's probably pretty, which he said that himself, he's had a lot of severe hearing loss. But anyway, let's get back into this.
There were no neon missing on the dog-lit stairway. French kisses in a darkened doorway. Foghorn blowing out wild and cold. A policeman, he shines a light upon my shoulder.
See, you see how jazz that sounds? I mean, that sounds something straight out of like a bridge from like a Herbie Hancock song to me. It really does. Listen to that again.
Shoulder.
Right here, listen. And that drummer is swinging. I mean, he's swinging. He's swinging in this song. You know, like at least I'm not a drummer, but it sounds like to me he's swinging. He's not playing like a straight beat. You know what I mean? He's swinging on the drums there, which makes it sound even more jazzy. And also the fact the kind of guitar he's using, right, and the way he's picking just makes it sound like jazz. Like to me, like that's what Dire Straits sounds like. They're like a jazz rock band, which I know they're not usually thought of like that, but they are to me. They have a lot of their songs have like a swing and like a bluesy rhythm to them. But let's hear that bridge one more time. Listen to that. It sounds like something you would hear on So What.
Now comes a coaster, fast and sun in the night. And over my shoulder, all you can see are pilot lights. No money in our jackets and our jeans at all. Your hands.
Another crazy thing about this is just like how he's like playing that and singing at the same time. Like that's extremely impressive. It's like when you see Freddie Mercury or like Michael McDonald singing and playing at the same time. It's really crazy. You know, that's insanely hard to do. To remember those words, remember all those chords, right? And play them at the same time while you're singing. That's very, very difficult. It's very impressive, and especially what he's doing. He's playing like accompaniment. He's playing like lead. He's playing like the dude's doing like riffs and like accompaniment mini solos in between like his vocal phrasing. You know, it's extremely impressive. I don't know what kind of bass that is that he has right there, but that's a pretty nice bass. So we're coming up on the verse here, right? Sorry, not the verse, on the bridge. So listen to this bridge. Again, hunkering down the jazz thing sounds like some jazz stuff. It's great. Just this bridge is one of my favorite bridges I've heard in any song, especially the way that they play it live right here. So listen to how the melody and the accompaniment he plays on the guitar like flows with the band and the chords. It's really awesome. Almost like psychedelic rock sounding stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's really awesome. So let's listen to that real quick.
Cold, but your lips so warm. All right.
See, that sounds less like something you would hear in a rock song and more like something you would hear in like a Bill Evans song. I'll play it again, but just listen to this one more time. It is like it's a jazz chord progression. To me, it's you know, E to C sharp minor to 2 C majors. That's very jazzy. That's extremely jazzy. to start on the E, go to E sharp minor, and then end on a C. That's classic jazz, right? Classic jazz from going from like a chord that's a half step up, and then going and then resolving major down, right? C sharp minor to C major. You know, that's a classic jazz or even blues way to resolve the chord there. Let's hear that one more time.
See him on the jetty like we used to. Granada TV, the Tony Wilson show.
I mean, by the way, if I get any of these chords wrong, sorry about that. I have the chords written down in front of me. I might have them in off order. That might not actually be the chords to the bridge. I think it is. But either way, if you look up to the chords of this song, you'll see what I'm talking about. Another crazy thing about Dire Straits, again, just his singing voice. Like, it's so soft. Like, you would think, like, oh, like if you sing like that, you sing very softly and hoarsely like that, then like it won't sound good to people. But it sounds great. It's like great. He has like one of the most like, you know, unique sounding voices in like rock history. You know what I mean? And it's surprising that it works again, because you can barely hear his voice. Even on the recordings, his voice, even on like Sultans of Swing, right? His voice is very soft. Also, there's never any harmonies. I'm always impressed when like a band, you know, like Dire Straits or anybody, can like have great sounding vocals without like without any overdub or harmonization, right? There's like, you never hear any overdubbing or harmonization, even in their studio songs, I think, at least most of the ones I've listened to, you know, and there's never any live either. So, because, you know, a lot of great bands, there's a lot of overdubbing, a lot of harmonization. Like, my favorite band is Steely Dan. Almost every single Steely Dan song, even the ones that sound like it doesn't, Donald Fagen has like overdubbed his voice. Even when there's not a harmony, has overdubbed his voice like at least 2 times. You know what I mean? Even in stuff like Ricky Don't Lose That Number, right? Like the verse. It sounds like there's no overdubbing or there's no harmonization, but there is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you were to break it up, Donald Fagen has talked about how he always does that, just to make the song and the singing sound like more full and full range, right? But here, Mark Knopfler never does that. Never overdubs, never has vocal harmonization, but it sounds great. It sounds great without it. But let's keep going.
When she's walking by the river on the railway line, she can still hear him whisper, let's go down to the water line. Come on, baby.
This song is also a great example of what I like to call the one line chorus. You know what I mean? Because there's so many different ways to do a chorus in composition, right? You know, you can like do the thing where you repeat the line 3 or 4 times, like it's gonna be blue tomorrow. It's gonna be blue tomorrow. You can do that. A lot of songs do that. A lot of songs do that with like a version where you say the first line, the second and third line of the chorus is something else, and then you end on the original hook, first line. And then there are other songs like this song in which it's it's a one-line thing, you know. Bum bum, let's go down to the water line, right? It's a short verse. It's a short, punchy, chorus, in which like it's not. For example, a song that's different from this would be "Reeling in the Years," right? Oh, you're reeling in the years, stowing away the time. It's a long chorus. Right, really long chorus. This has one of those short choruses, kind of like Josie by Steely Dan, right? Where, you know, she prays like a Roman with her eyes on fire, like that, right? This is one of those songs. Like, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the hook. You'll miss the down to the water line, right? It happens very quickly. Like, it's basically a short chorus. This is what I'm saying. This is a long verse, short chorus. So this song, in terms of music composition, is very interesting. It's a classic example of a catchy intro, a long verse, and then a very quick chorus that ends on like a stop where you say the name of the song. Right? You know, there's like a million pop songs that does this, but this song really does that to like great effect. You know what I mean? So let's finish up here. Let's go back a second so we can hear that down to the water line one more time.
When she's walking by the river on the railway line, she can still hear him whisper, let's go down to the water line.
See, and it's a classic. It's a classic, classic 4-chord chorus, right? You know what I mean? That's another thing that's crazy about music composition. It's all about like, okay, how many chords are going to be in the verse? How many chords are going to be in the chorus? How many is there going to be a bridge? That's what like all creating songs like this is all about, right? And this one is a classic 4-chord chorus, right? But it's very quick. It's only once. Dun 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 down to the water line. Right, so it's a classic example of like how a chorus doesn't always have to be long. It doesn't always have to be powerful. You don't always have to write like a Reeling in the Years chorus. There's a very quick chorus. It's only 4 chords, and it's super effective. It's awesome. And it's really cool too. Like choruses that are short are harder to write to me. They seem harder to write, but they're very effective and they're very awesome. So let's listen to that one more time before we end here.
Granada TV, the Tony Wilson Show. When she's walking by the river on the railway line, she can still hear him whisper, let's go down to the water line. Come on, baby.
Here again, you can hear that very hypnotic. The G to B minor. Listen to that again right after the chorus. That G to B minor is super powerful, super hypnotic, very, very Miles Davis sounding. But anyway, that is all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you found something that said to be interesting. Check out my music. This is the Coolie Baba music channel. That's just the name I've chosen for my music, so please subscribe. Also, you can follow me on Spotify. I have a couple of my songs posted right now. I have a Green Top Hill and 36 posted right now. Please give those a listen. And I'll see you next time.